Welcome to my classroom. In this model number 4 under sterilization topics, in this lecture number 31, we are going to discuss about principles of sterilization. Ready? So now we will get into our next module, sterilization. Okay, so already we have discussed given the introduction and even shown you how the autoclave is used to sterile all the constituents. So that is the syllabus for this particular model. So welcome to my classroom. So in this lecture, we are going to discuss about principles of sterilization, and particularly the contents are going to be what is rate of microbial death, how do the sterilants work, what are the different type of sterilization available, and how the sterilization of the culture media, additives or fermenter vessel or a filter sterilization, how it is carried out, how the air is sterilized. So all this will be discussed. So this content is taken from a 2018 review paper, principles and it's a part of book, principles and applications of fermentation technology, and some of the contents are from our Kirk and Othmer Encyclopedia of Chemical Technology, chapter 16, sterilization techniques. Okay, so it's going to be theory portion. Okay, so we know that fermentation is done in a biochemical industry. Particularly, it can be any industry, right? It can be pharmaceutical industry, food industries, anywhere. So fermentation is one of the important steps, which is actually performed by introducing a pure culture into pure culture, is called as inoculum. So inoculum of a desirable organism or group of organisms is introduced into a suitable medium, and the growth is allowed to happen by supplying the substrate continuously. We can able to produce these products, desired products. Okay, but if any fermentation media comes in contact with any foreign microorganisms, it may lead to a loss in productivity of the actual fermenting microorganism due to several reasons given here. Okay, so because this foreign microorganism is coming into the picture, that will be consuming our whatever growth media nutrient that is available in the system. Okay, so instead of desired product being formed, there will be undesired product formation will be taking place. Okay, that is one thing. Another thing is, even though if that is taking place very small amount, the desired product, even if it is formed, it is going to be contaminated with these alternative products that are formed or other foreign microorganisms that are present. Okay, and if it is so, separation or extraction of the final product from the fermentation broth is going to be very difficult, because different foreign materials are present which may be active at the same temperature like the desired product formed, right? So that is going to be, separation will be a very difficult process if you are having some alternative foreign materials or foreign microorganisms are present, because obviously they will catalyze some of the reaction, right? So we think that particular enzyme or particular microorganism is we are taking, and we are thinking that ethanol is being formed, but due to the presence of a foreign material, instead of ethanol formation, some other material will be formed. So the percentage purity of the ethanol formed is going to be less, right? So that's what is going to happen if any contamination is there. Contamination is in the sense any foreign microorganism that is present. Okay, so how to avoid that? So how to avoid any contamination is, so first thing is inoculation. We have to take from a pure culture. Okay, so that it should be pure culture, means it is not contaminated, it is stored properly. So that's why it is a pure culture. It is stored under specified conditions and a specified growth medium. So from there we have to take our inoculum. Okay, so that can be performed. Another thing is, we have to sterilize the media that we are using. Media is in the sense the growth media, right? So we have seen micronutrients present in a media. So micronutrients, macronutrients, all that will be there, right? For each microorganism, it will be active. A certain growth media is given, right? With a particular pH, particular temperature range, right? So they are active. So that way, whatever is the growth media, we may have to sterilize it. By sterilizing the growth media, we can avoid the contamination. Other thing is, other than growth media, we are going to make use of the equipment, right? Fermentation reactor is there, or even storage vessel is there. Anything is there that needs to be sterilized. Okay, So we have to maintain this sterile condition, which is also referred as aseptic condition. So this aseptic condition should be maintained during the whole process of fermentation. So that's a difference, major important operation which differentiate any other chemical industry from a biochemical industry is, that is any other chemical process from a biochemical process, is this particular step called as aseptic process, aseptic conditions. Okay, so that is the major difference in chemical. See, remember, we always who designs the reactor, all that. As a chemical engineer, we will be designing a chemical reactor, all the storage vessel, distillation column, everything. But who will be making it, means it will be done by mechanical engineer who is well versed with this chemical engineering equipment. A mechanical engineer specialized in manufacturing chemical engineering equipment, right? It may be unit operation or unit process. Usually mechanical engineer will be doing it, okay, taking care of the actual construction design of the chemical equipment. Whereas in case of biochemical engineer, we cannot leave it to a mechanical engineer. Remember, a biochemical engineer is not just responsible for the fermenter alone. Okay, a biochemical engineer is not just responsible for what is taking place in the fermenter. We cannot be reluctant like that, because he is responsible for ensuring every step involved in the plant. Okay, so right from zero to final product production, he has to ensure that we have an environment which is contamination free. So who is responsible for it? We cannot ask a mechanical engineer to be responsible for making, because remember, all these, when you want to talk about sterilization, we have to think of it during the design stage itself. Wherever we are designing, we should have a provision for sterilizing it. Okay, so how to do that? So that will be taken care only by a biochemical engineer. That's why it is always better a biochemical engineer takes whole control of the plant if there is biochemical reaction is involved. Okay, that's why this biochemical engineer plays a very important role. Why it is so is, remember, with respect to chemical plant, if it is small scale, something has been done, so it is easy for a mechanical engineer to scale up also, right? So chemical engineer easily they will scale up. Okay, scale up in the sense small scale is there. What is the thing? What we as a chemical engineer, what we have to maintain from a scale up process, from a model to a prototype? We are having dimensionless numbers, right? We have to maintain geometric similarity, kinematic similarity, and dynamic similarity has to be maintained. In other words, I can tell that all the dimensionless numbers should be same in a small scale as well as in the large scale. The small scale is in the same lab scale or pilot plant. So whatever is the Reynolds number, let me say Reynolds number is 25,000. If I am making a large type, there also Reynolds number should be same 25,000. If my Prandtl number, Nusselt number, any number, heat transfer dimensionless number or mass transfer dimensionless number, all the dimensionless number values should be same in a model and the prototype. That we have learned in wherever we learned about modeling, means model and prototype similarities, all these things. Okay, so that can be maintained, easily done. Okay, and the productivity is going to be the same. 99%, whatever you are expecting performance or the efficiency, you will be able to obtain that. Whereas in a biochemical process, what happens is, if it is a small scale, we introduce the same growth medium, we introduce the same microorganism group, but the problem is, in small scale, one of the microorganism may be active predominant. But once it is introduced into large scale, some other microorganism is performing better. Okay, that will overtake, which means that will catalyze some other different reaction. So that is the biggest challenge with respect to scaling up of any biochemical reaction system. Okay, so in lab scale, the performance of a thing is one. In large scale, it is going to be different. If you take the example of cricket, somebody playing very well in IPL matches, so suddenly if you introduce them into international matches, they will be struggling. But those who is performing average in IPL may be performing better in the test international matches when they are introduced. Say for example, before IPL there was Ranchi trophy matches were there. So those who are performing within national cricket team, when they are introduced in the international team, they struggle. So that maybe somebody else may be performing better. If you choose 3 people from here, somebody else can overtake, right? So such condition is taking place in case of the scaling up of a small scale operation to industrial scale operation, because there is a formidable problem of contamination. So there, the main reason for the change of performance is contamination, because in small scale the way we maintain the sterile conditions is different, and when it is scaling up is done, that same conditions are not okay. We have to change some other parameters when we want to do contamination free system in the large scale. Okay, for example, if you take this penicillin fermentation, if you want to design and operate a deep aerobic fermenter under a contamination free environment with pure culture, that is a requirement, because the environment in the fermenter is conducive for contaminants also to grow. Okay, so because the same in large scale, when the growth medium, nutrient, substrate are there, if any contaminant, what is contaminant? It is nothing but some other which we don't want to be in the system, we have to call it as contaminant, right? So that is also a microorganism that also needs nutrients, that also will grow under this particular pH and temperature, that also will consume the substrate, right? So that way there is a challenge. Okay, so that way between a chemical industry and a biochemical industry, when I say biochemical industry, it can be either pharmaceutical industry, food industry, or even this ethanol production, biodiesel production industry, anywhere. Okay, so that way this aseptic conditions or sterile condition to ensure every equipment to be under aseptic condition, it is the responsibility of a biochemical engineer. This we have even discussed in the beginning of our course itself, right? So in the introduction, we have seen what are the challenges faced by a biochemical engineer. He is the person who is responsible. Remember, all the things needs to be, if it is medicine or any drug, it has to undergo a process. We have seen it takes 15 years to get a commercialization of a process, right? So to develop a particular design, even if there is minor change, it has to again go through approval process, right? Okay, so that's why a mechanical engineer may be overlooking that part, sterilization thing, but a biochemical engineer will have the responsibility to take care of these things. Okay. So in that case, what is happening when we are doing this sterilization? We are trying to kill anything that is present in the system. Okay, so death of a microbiome, whatever, when I say sterilization, what we are doing, we are trying to kill the microorganisms present in the thing, whether it may be medium, it may be the glasswares, or it may be a fermenter reactor or pipelines, anywhere we want to do sterilization. So what we are trying to do is we want to kill them, right? So obviously the role of what is the principle of sterilization for the medium, for equipment, for air, for what is the effect of temperature on the sterilization, what is batch sterilization, what is continuous sterilization, what is del factor, what is estimation, how to estimate the del factor, what is air sterilization, what is air filters, and what is its efficiency, how to sterilize the fermenters. So all needs to be discussed under this topic. Okay, so if you look at this, what we are doing here, we are trying to kill the microorganisms, anything that is present in the system. Okay, so we are not talking about the inoculum, our own pure culture, that is different. Okay, so we are talking about other than our desired microorganism, no other microorganism is supposed to be present in the system. So that way we want to kill the microorganism. So obviously we should know what is the rate of death of any microorganisms. Okay, so the death at constant rate occurs when the media is contaminated by some microorganism and heat or any other sterilizing treatment can be given. Okay, for example, when the heat treatment is given for 1 minute, then we can say that 90% of the population dies, but we may be needing more time to kill the remaining 10% of the population. Okay, so to kill the remaining population, again the same treatment is given, then again 90% of the population only dies. So like that, we have to keep repeating that, right? So obviously the time of sterilization is very important. How much time we have to do in sterilization because it is never possible to get 100% sterilization. Okay, so somebody says that 100% sterile, it is not possible at all. You cannot kill all the microorganism present in the system. Okay, remember, because some of them are thermal. What we are doing, we are doing thermal treatment to kill it, right? What if it is thermophobic, right? If it likes to be at it is very active at the temperature of sterilization, that is not going to die, right? So that is the thing we should know when we talk about the rate of microbial death. Okay, so if you want to kill the whole population, we have to keep repeating the treatment. Okay, so if you are plotting a graph, we will be getting a constant curve for death rate of the microorganism. Okay, so there are some of the factors which are responsible for the way of sterilization treatment works. So what are the factors on which this sterilization treatment is working is, number one, it is based on total microbes. If the number of microbes present is large, then we are going to have more time is required, right? So if there is more number of microbes present, we need more time to kill them. And what about the environment? We need to have a warm environment is most suited for the sterilization actions. The another factor is nature of the media. When you want to sterilize a media, what is the media? Whether it is rich in proteins and fats, then obviously the microbes will not be easily killed. Okay, in that case, mostly heating treatment will be helping them. So that way, the nature of the media also plays a role in deciding how much time or what type of sterilization we have to perform. Another factor is duration of the sterilization treatment. So obviously, as I said, different sterilization treatment methods will be requiring different time of exposure, because there are chemical sterilization treatments that requires more time compared to the normal heating methods. Okay, so other than that, what is the nature of the contaminant? That also a big challenge we should know to kill it, right? So what is, depending upon the nature of the contaminant, it may need a particular choice of sterilization treatment. Okay, so we have to choose a sterilization treatment based on what type of contamination, what is the characteristics of the contaminant microorganism that is present. Okay, so all this will has to be considered: total microbes present, environment required, nature of the media, duration of the treatment, characteristics of the contaminant that is present. All this will be responsible for the way effectively the sterilization treatment technique is going to work. Okay, and how these sterilants are working. Okay, so sterilizing treatments, they are aiming, as I said, all are aimed at killing the contaminant that is present in the media used. So what it has to be done, because we have to kill a cell microorganism, means what it is consisting of a cell membrane, it consists of a protein and nucleic acid. How we are going to kill it, right? So that also we have to do. So there are two ways why we can do that one. One is by changing the permeability of the cell membrane. We have seen in detail about all the cells, prokaryotic cells and eukaryotic cells. Okay, so if you have the cell membrane, it is the one which is acting as a barrier for anything to enter into the cell, right? So the plasma membrane present inside the cell membrane of the contaminant is the target of the sterilizing agents, because the sterilizing agent will have to change the permeability of the cell membrane. Once that one is there, the exchange of nutrients in the cell and removal of the waste can be done. Okay, so the sterilizing agents which we are going to use will cause the disturbance to the plasma membrane, which will lead to the improper exchange of nutrients and leakage of the cell components, which will ultimately lead to the death of the contaminant thing. Okay, other way is destroying the proteins and nucleic acids present inside the cell of the contaminant. Okay, so that way the microbes that act as contaminants are mostly bacteria. Okay, so bacteria are rich source of enzymes, and enzymes are proteins that are very fragile to heat treatment, as they easily denature. So DNA and RNA that is carrying the genetic information of the microbe can be also easily destroyed by any kind of sterilizing treatment, like heating can be done, radiation can be done, or chemical treatment can be performed. Okay, so Sterilization of this fermentation media has to be done. Sterilization of the inlet gas has to be done. Sterilization of the outlet gas has to be done. And also we have to maintain the sterile conditions during the bioprocessing, and it is one of the most important and more comprehensive upstream processing. Okay, so in biochemical industry, as I told you, we have upstream processing and downstream processing. Downstream processing is once the product is formed from the fermentation path, how we are separating it, isolating it, so that comes under the downstream processing. Okay, so with respect to upstream processing, we have to ensure the sterile conditions are prevailing all around. Okay, so that way there are various sterilization techniques and methods which are available for sterilizing the inlet gases, or even liquid if are there, if it is continuous process. Okay, also including the sterilization of small equipment, we need a technique. For sterilization of large scale equipment, we need a different technique. Okay, also we have to validate all the different sterilization processes which is being performed. Okay, so for example, some of the gases means inlet gases and outlet gases means how we will be sterilizing. We can use some filtration techniques. Okay, so filtrations, for example, filter cartridges, membrane filters, they can be used. Okay, and if it is liquid sterilization methods, it means we can do filtration, we can do heat sterilization, they can be used. Okay, so when you talk about define the term sterilization means a near complete destruction of the microorganisms, usually by the temperatures above 100 degrees Celsius. Okay, so usually we increase the pressure also, right? So we call that equipment as autoclaves or retards. And some of the, because of the resistance of the bacterial spores to the heat, varies with different bacteria, right? So the sterilization frequency means a treatment of at least 120 degrees Celsius of wet heat for at least 15 minutes or its equivalent to inactivate to a large extent of course of the pathogenic Clostridium botulinum and most of the spore forming spoilage microorganisms. Okay, so in general, we, as I say, even in the demonstration video which we prepared for you people and showed you, we have told you we used 120 degrees Celsius and 20 minutes we have been using, right? So that way that minimum time is required to ensure at least 99% or 90% of bacteria are killed. Okay, and when we are doing that, sterilization also means that every particle of the food must receive the adequate heat treatment. That means if it is a food industry, okay, so hence the slowness of heat transfer through the food should also be considered in determining the overall destruction effect of the sterilizing treatment method. Okay, actually in practice, product is subjected to sterilization. Even if you have performed that one, we cannot be sure that it is 100% sterile. Okay, actually, because if you look at the what is the principle of exponential death of microbial population, it follows that absolute sterility cannot be achieved and there will not be a zero survivor. Only the probability of survival can be minimized to an acceptable degree. See how much level we can minimize the number of bacteria present in the system can be done. Okay, so that way for acceptable degree we have to do the sterilization. So 100% it is not possible. Okay, so for example, that acceptance degree can be fixed like 10 power minus 2 parts survival of C. botulinum spores, called 12D concept. This concept is called 12D concept. Even in this case, there are some more heat resistant spore formers. For example, Clostridium thermosaccharolytism or Geobacillus sterothermophilus. So they may be surviving. As I told you, some of them are heat resistant bacteria. They may be surviving at that intensive heat of 120 degrees Celsius also. So that is the thing. We have to ensure that such type of thermal resistant bacteriums are not coming into our system. That is our responsibility also. Okay, so because being of this thermophilic nature, these surviving microorganisms cannot grow under the normal conditions of storage, and this condition is termed commercial sterility. Okay, and if you look at the case study of the food industry, so this food industry applies several environmental factors for the inhibition or inactivation of the microorganisms. in order to manufacture any food product to be safe and looking at their quality and their shelf life, right? So because there will be expiry date for any food product being produced. So if you want to make it, if you want to durability and the shelf life of any food products to be increased, we have to ensure that even inside the packing there is no contamination, there is no chance for microorganism to enter or survive or grow or multiply and damage the product. Okay, so there are different techniques are available: heating, freezing, drying, irradiation, high pressure, and other methods, or sometimes the combination of these methods can be used for sterilizing the foods. And heat treatment at high temperature is the most important method of preservation that is widely used in the canning industry. Actually, if you look at this kind of thing, whether biotechnology came only 100 years back or 50 years back, is the sterilization has not been done by our ancestors or in the history, was it done earlier or not? We can look at here. The practice of canning started at the end of the 18th century, much earlier than when the scientific fundamentals of heat sterilization process became understood. Even though we have not understood the basic concept of this heat sterilization, even in 1795, motivated by a tender of Napoleon offering some huge money for developing a practical way to preserve food, one of the confectioner named Nicholas Appert successfully able to preserve the meat placed and boiled in the glass bottles. Remember, in our place also we used to dry even the make fish kind of meats can be dried and stored, right? We people have found some way of preserving the food without it getting contaminated, right? So we are making pickles, we have to preserve it properly, because if you put a wet spoon or leave it open like that, so obviously it will get contaminated, right? So we people also doing some practices to keep our things sterile at home, right? So means without getting contaminated, how to preserve the food also this brings. Okay, so that way even they patented the process. So that is the beginning of food preservation canning, food preservation by canning. So then came only after 50 years only, Louis Pasteur introduced the concept. He demonstrated the role of microorganism in the contamination of the food. Okay, he is the one who found that the microorganisms are responsible for the putrefaction of this meat and milk, as well as disease of wine. That's why he developed a heat process called as pasteurization. We are calling food, even every day when you buy the milk packet, it is written, right, pasteurized milk. So that name came from Louis Pasteur. So yes, he is the one who introduced that heat process of treating the milk and making it, we can preserve it for longer time. Okay, actually he prepared for this wine, how to preserve the wine. Okay, now we are applying it for various applications, how we are doing that, right? The sound scientific foundation for the process of sterilization was done later only. So if you remember 18th century, after 100 years, on 20 in the 1920s only, like Americans like Ball and Bigelow, they introduced the scientific foundation for this sterilization process. Okay, so it is one of the important primary process, because diverse food processing and even in the space explorations, the sterilization is very important. Okay, it is more readily associated with the healthcare profession and industry, or with the even in the electronics industry also. Remember, when the motherboard, all these things are there, that also needs to be contamination free. Many of the several industries which are employing sterilization technology, they have been regulated by the different agencies. For example, even in United States, the introduction of food, pharmaceuticals and medical devices into interstate commerce, they all has to come through FDA. Okay, so even we have seen about penicillin, we have discussed about that. Okay, what are the different stages of getting the approval? Okay, so any registration of this chemical sterilant is regulated by the EPA in the United States. So every country has their own regulatory authority. Okay, and if you look at the market of the sterilizing equipment, no, it is very huge. Okay, 10 power 6, 70 into 10 power 6 is the one. And there are different suppliers are there. Okay, if you look at international level, Okay, so there are different suppliers who are making these equipments which is doing the sterilization operations. Okay, so we can, as I said, steam is mainly used for sterilization. So steam makers, steam boilers, those who make steam boilers in India, there are different industries are there. And there is chemical sterilization, means ethylene oxide sterilizers are there, and dry heat sterilizers are there. So there are different companies across the world. You can see many of them are from UK, Japan, Netherlands, Germany, Canada. Okay, so different manufacturing units are there located in different countries. Okay, we should know, majorly we should know one important difference between sterilization operation with certain other processes which are okay, because there is a big conception is there. Okay, sterilization is different from disinfection. Sterilization is different from sanitization. It is different from the use of antiseptics and bacteriostats. Okay, so that way we have to differentiate what is sterilization with these disinfectants also. Okay, so if you look at this food processing, they actually we want to make that we want to render the object safe for certain applications. In most of the instances, a judgment on the suitability of a sterilization or a substitute process can only made by a microbiologist. He will be deciding what type of sterilization technique can be used or any other technique can be used. Okay, so there are some well-known exemptions are the common practice of boiling infants feeding bottles under ambient atmosphere for 5 to 50 minutes at home. That's what we are doing, right? We are using, if you have a small baby at home, so feeding bottle, what people used to do, they heat it in a water 5 to 15 minutes. So they are telling that they are trying to sterilize them. Okay, so what we are doing, the practice of soaking the objects in 70% alcohol also can be done, or we can put it in water and heat it, and 15 to 5 to 15 minutes we can do. So that way some of the practices, there are exemptions are there, but otherwise strict process of sterilization has to be followed. Okay, so remember, boiling at atmospheric pressure is not, will not result in sterilization or not even soaking in the alcohol. Neither procedure will kill the bacterial spores actually. So that way it is not going to completely sterile your materials. Okay, so that way it is important to establish a criteria for microbial death when we are considering a when we are choosing a sterilization technique for a given application. Okay, so that will be, you should know with respect to the individual cell, the irreversible cessation of all vital functions such as growth, reproduction, and in the case of viruses, inability to attach and infect is a most suitable criterion. On a practical level, it is necessary to establish test criteria that permits a conclusion without having to observe individual microbial cells. Okay. So the failure to reproduce in a suitable medium after incubation at optimum conditions for some acceptable time period is traditionally accepted as satisfactory proof of microbial death, and consequently we could term it as sterility. So whatever is the testing method, such the application of such a testing method is for practical purposes. However, it is not considered possible. The cultural article cannot be retrieved for subsequent use, and the size of many items totally precludes practical culturing techniques. So in order to design acceptable test procedures, we have to understand the kinetics and thermodynamics of the sterilization process. As a chemical engineer, we are well aware of it. Okay, so for example, if you look at the kinetics, an overwhelming body of evidence starting with the earliest investigation supports the contention that the rate of destruction of microorganism is logarithmic, that is first order with respect to concentration of microorganisms. So we can define it with expression NO by NT equal to e power minus KT, where NO is the initial number of organism, whereas NT is the number of organism which is alive at the time T, any time T. And we know K is a kinetic rate constant, and it can be seen that NT will be approaching 0 as T approaches infinity. That is, at infinity time we can say that NT will be approaching 0. That is, the number of organism alive at any time will be 0. We can consider to approaching 0 when we have infinite time of sterilization. Okay, so that is the kinetic part we know. So absolute sterility accordingly is impossible to attain. First order kinetics yield linear plots of semi-logarithmic graphs when you are plotting it against time. So it has been found convenient to express this rate of microbial kill in terms of a decimal reduction rate, which is called as D value. Okay, so D value is the decimal reduction rate. So this D value will represent the time of exposure for a given conditions for a given microorganism required for a tenfold decrease in the viable population. So D value is nothing but the time required, this time of exposure required for sterilization to reduce the population by 1/10, tenfold. That is what 1 degree of order you can say. So 10 times the population is decreased means that is the D value or decimal reduction value. This principle is found to have a very good application, particularly in the healthcare industry, food processing industries, because this practical significance of knowing this D value, it simplifies the design of cycles, sterilization cycles in the system. So once we know the D value, we may have a sufficiently large D value for any process, which will result in a negative log of NT. So that means in a practical sense, what does it represent? It represents the probability of surviving of the last remaining microorganism. Okay, so in the health sciences also, a 10 power minus 6 residual concentration of microorganism is generally regarded as the acceptable criterion for sterility. So that is the final concentration of microorganism, that is 10 power minus 6. Okay. So either this range, no, but we can always have an exemption. So exemptions in the direction of higher values or lower value do exist, but they depend upon the what type of sterilization technique is used and what is the purpose of sterilizing the equipment or product. Okay. And the coming to the thermodynamic part of this sterilization, so we are well aware of this thing, Arrhenius theorem we have seen in chemical reaction engineering also. So Arrhenius rate theory, we have an empirical derivation will hold for this sterilization process. You can note down, we will solve some numericals using these two equations 2 and 3 also. Okay, K equal to A into e power minus delta E by RT, where K is the kinetic constant, A is the Arrhenius rate constant, R and T we know, standard universal gas constant and absolute temperature in Kelvin. Delta E is the activation energy. Okay, and then we have another equation, Eyring equation. So the Eyring equation for the theory of the absolute reaction rate is more accurate. This equation is useful. K equal to KB T by H e power T delta S minus delta H by RT. Okay, so all are thermodynamic term. You have to recall them. Kb is Boltzmann constant, H is Planck's constant, delta S and delta H are the standard entropy and enthalpy changes respectively. And if you are determining the delta E value, delta H value and delta S value, will be usually yield values around 167 to 335 joules per mole. Such values are very often characteristics of a protein denaturation. We call it as protein denaturation. So this microbial death may involve irreversible denaturation of some or even all of the cell's proteins. So the relationship between the D value and the K can be derived, and this equation we have to make use. D equal to T2 minus T1 by log 10 N1 minus log base 10 N2. Whereas we know that D value is actually N1 should be 10 times N2, right? So that relation is there because that's what we define D value, right? The time in which the population of the microorganism is reduced by 1/10 of the initial value. So that way you have N1 equal to 10 times N2. So if you substitute that one, we get a relationship between D and K. That is D equal to 2.3 by K. Okay. So and we have Z value is defined. So that is given by the equation given here. T2 minus T1 by log D1 minus log D2 at base 10. And we have a convenient multiple of D is the thermal death time, which is given by F naught. It is the exposure time required for less than 1 into 10 power minus 6 probability of survival. And this relationship between F naught and Z can be expressed in this equation 7. You can refer to it. And the comparison of the effectiveness of the sterilization cycles at a different temperature becomes possible. And we have the equation that, so you can see that it is T by antilog of 121 minus T by Z. Okay. And moving on to the, so once we know these kinetics and the thermodynamics of the sterilization process, we can move to different type of sterilization techniques which are being used. So as I said, even in the early Stone Age, humans used to several methods of sterilizing by salting or drying, right? As I said, dry fish is being done, dry meat is being done. People used to apply salt over it, then dry it in the sunlight for several days so that they can preserve it and use it during the winter time. Because hunting time onwards, because they don't get their meat every day, right? So once you get something, you preserve it for a long time so that we can eat for longer time. Okay, and then heating is one of the most favorable methods of sterilization since the earlier days. But with the time, introduced some microbes that are heat resistant, so various other methods are required. Heat is one of the parameter, pressure and radiation. So all these three play the role in different type of physical sterilization techniques. Okay, and heat, if we consider, as I said, we are going to discuss about heat, pressure and radiation for sterilization. To start with heat, heat is the preferred method because it is going to kill the microorganism by denaturing the enzymes present in them and changing the structure of the proteins and thereby inactivating the microorganisms. So when we are choosing heat as the sterilization technique, these three factors will be deciding the action of the sterilization process. So that is, one is thermal death point, thermal death time and decimal reduction time. So these three terms we have to know when you are using this heat sterilization. So what is thermal death point? It is the minimum temperature required to kill the microbes present in a suspension in 10 minutes. So that is the temperature required. So what is the minimum temperature required? If you can be able to kill the microorganism in the present in a system within 10 minutes. Okay. So if you are able to kill it in 10 minutes, what is the temperature? The temperature is called as thermal death point. What is thermal death time? It is the minimum time required to kill the microorganism present in a suspension at a given temperature. So for a given temperature, we are going to have a thermal death time. For a given time, 10 minutes, we are going to define what is thermal death point. Then we have another term, decimal reduction time. What is decimal reduction time? Is the minutes required to kill the microorganisms at a given temperature. So that is decimal reduction time. Okay. Then we know that heat treatment can be given using how, as a heat transfer we have studied, right? So how heat exchange can be performed between two systems. So how this heat treatment can be given using a moist heat or dry heat sterilization. So if you look at the dry heat sterilization, it involves killing of the oxidation effects by flaming or incineration. And then we have moist heat sterilization. So the moist heat sterilization will work by coagulating the proteins present in the microbes, thereby killing them. So for this heat treatment, autoclaving is the most common method of moist heat sterilization, in which moist heat means we are using steam as the medium, right? The steam is used to kill the microorganisms at the high temperature under appropriate pressure. And usually we use this autoclaving for sterilizing the glasswares, sterilizing the culture media, sterilizing the equipments and any solutions involved. Okay. And if you, after heat, coming out to the pressure, usually when you are increasing the pressure, what happens to the cells is the molecular structure of the protein and carbohydrates will be changed, altered. So which will lead to the inactivation of the cell and thereby leading to the decay of cells, death of cells. Okay, so that way, applying a pressure also, we can modify the structure of the proteins and carbohydrates, so which will alter the structure so that finally it will lead to death. Okay. And then radiation. So it's one of the recent technology, but thing is people still be afraid of using radiations. But however, radiation, depending on the intensity, wavelength and duration of the radiation, it has various effects on the microbes. So two type of radiation kills microbes. They are non-ionizing and ionizing radiations. So non-ionizing radiation, ionizing radiation. These two type of radiation are being used. Non-ionizing radiation means they have a wavelength greater than 1 nanometer, and the ultraviolet light is a form of non-ionizing radiation. So by applying the UV lights, it will be killing the microbes and thereby degrading their structure DNA, and by making them thymine dimers. Okay, so these thymine dimers will prevent the replication of the DNA during the cell reproduction. So thereby no further growth of microorganism takes place. Particularly if you have the UV wavelength of 260 nanometer, it is very effective in killing the microbes, and these radiations are effective in sterilizing the glasswares, air, culture media, etc. And if you look at this ionizing radiation, they will have low wavelength. Okay, so they have wavelength less than 1 nanometer, like the X-rays, gamma rays, or electron beams of high energy. So these radiation will work by ionizing the water and forming highly reactive hydroxyl radicals, and these radicals will be killing the microbes by causing some of the damage to the structure or DNA or RNA by a series of biochemical reactions. So that way also we can sterilize the microsystem. Okay, and then coming to the next type, we have seen what is the role of heat, what is the role of steam, what is the role of pressure, what is the role of radiation. Now coming to the filtration, filtration is also one of the thing, right? We are wearing mask, so what we are trying to do, we are filtering the air that is entering into our nose, right? So that is one of the techniques. So it helps in removal of microbes by making any liquid or gas pass through a membrane with the pores. Pressure is applied to make the liquid or gas to pass through the filter kept on a container in which the vacuum is being created. We have seen several type of filter units, right? Vacuum filters are also there. So that way generally filters are used to filter the microorganism. And coming to this steam sterilization, sterilization by steam can be done by the use of normal steam creating by preventing evaporation of the medium or with the help of steam under pressure used in autoclaves. So we have Koch or Arnold steamer which are widely used. They usually contain a copper cabinet with lagged walls and conical lid that helps in the drainage of the steam generated, and a perforated tray is placed over the water level which will help in the distribution of the steam in the autoclaves also. Okay, so we usually have temperature 100 degrees Celsius for 20 minutes for 3 days is required, and the process is known as intermittent sterilization. So this is one of the efficient method which will kill the bacteria, but it is inefficient in killing the anaerobic spores. Another type of steamer is there, which is autoclave that generates steam under pressure where water boils when its pressure is equal to the atmospheric pressure in the vessel, and with the increase in the pressure. Yeah, so actually this is a diagram of a steam sterilizer. So actually steam sterilizer, you should able to draw a neat sketch and label the parts and explain the working of it. Okay, so that we should do as assignment. So that is about steam sterilization. And moving on to the sterilization of the culture media, usually the culture media sterilization is done by the heat treatment, that is by using the steam autoclaving. Okay, so it can be done in two ways. Either it so the sterilization of the culture media has to be done. If it is for batch operations, easily you can take the batch, keep it in the autoclave and do the thing. But what if it is a continuous system, continuously culture media is supplied to the system, how to do the sterilization? Based on that, we can classify them as batch sterilization and continuous sterilization. So that will be the two type of sterilization for culture media. To start with this culture sterilization, it can be done in a fermentation vessel or a separated cooker. When the fermenters are being cleaned and prepared for fermentation, the media used can be sterilized in the cookers. One cooker can be used for several fermenter, because one cooker is like autoclave, no? As I said, autoclave. So you can sterile different type of cultural media in the same cooker. So multiple usage is there. Okay. So the concentrated form of the media can be used for sterilization, and later you can dilute that media when you want to place it in the fermenter, which will be helping saving the time, because yours is a dilute concentration. You need not dilute concentration, and let me say 1 liter is there. You need not do that 1 liter in the fermenter. So what you can do is concentrated, highly concentrated media. You take some 100 ml and do the sterilization. Once you take it out, dilute it in the water, and you can make use of that. Okay, so that way, but all needs to be sterile, so that way we can always perform the sterilization for a concentration media, and then you can dilute it in the and use it in the fermenter. Okay, so that is one way of saving the space and time, right? And a one cooker is mostly used in this type of sterilization. So obviously a complex pipeline network is required which will connect all the fermenters delivering the sterilized media. So this type of sterilization makes sure there is minimal loss of nutrient, because we are operating usually at around 121 degrees Celsius, which is almost feasible for all nutrients present in the media to not get degraded. Okay, so that's why we are choosing a particular temperature in the autoclave. So the another type is for continuous sterilization, how we can do it. In this type of sterilization, the medium is heated to a particular temperature and it is kept at the same temperature for some time, and then we cool it. The time at which the media is kept at a certain temperature is known as holding time. Okay, so the holding time is maintained so that every media is present in the system at certain time, and then we are cooling it. So what we can do is we can use a continuous heat exchanger can be used to heat the media, and then insulated serpentine coiled tube is used to keep it at the temperature for the holding period. Serpentine is refers to snake, right? So it is like zigzag. I mean, one second. So we can have a counter current heat exchanger. So then we will have a serpentine flow field, means it will be like this, so that we are maintaining a temperature in it. Particular temperature can be maintained, right? So that way we will use insulated serpent coiled tube to maintain the holding period. Okay, so we can, if there is, you can make use of sequential heat exchangers can be used to cool the media to suitable fermentation temperature. Two types of continuous sterilizers are used. Okay, that is using the direct heat. Obviously, heat exchanger also, when we studied in heat transfer course, we have seen either it can be direct heat. Even when you talk about boilers, they are direct heat boilers or indirect heat boilers, right? So that way here also there are two type of continuous sterilizers which are being used. One is direct heat by steam injection, other uses the indirect heat. So steam is directly introduced into the system, that is direct heat sterilization. Indirect heat is like through medium we are supplying the heat. Okay, so any small increments of media are done continuously at a certain time intervals, and the heating and cooling times are appropriately managed. So we will be using spiral heat exchangers for cooling them, for cooling the heated media, which will help with the help of unsterile media that coming for the sterilization. This unsterile media gets heated. It's like preheating, no? So the new one which is coming, which will be used to cool the thing that is leaving the system. So that is our own, usually that's what we do, right? The heat which is used, we will be using preheat the raw material. We make use of the heat that is available from the product stream. So raw material entering will get preheated before entering into the system, right? So that's what we do here also. When it is continuous, we have to plan all that economically, how to make use of the heat available in the system. So that all we will be learning under plant utilities, right? So plant utilities, if you have an elective course, you will be learning them in detail also. Okay, so there are some pros and cons for each of them. For example, continuous steam injectors are used to directly inject the heat into the media. But what is the pros and cons affordable? It is very affordable and manageable procedure with very short heating time, but it produces foam on heating that can cause contamination. So if you are heating it, there is a tendency to form the foam. So in that case, introducing directly the heat is difficult. Okay, sometimes the steam injector is combined with flash cooling, in which a vacuum chamber is made having an expansion valve through which the media is passed. So that will cause instant cooling of the media. So sometimes we can make use of the combination of direct as well as indirect heat exchangers for particularly starch-rich media. If the media is rich in starch, we can make use of the combination of direct and indirect heat exchangers. Okay. Spiral heat exchangers are the best choice for continuous sterilization. Okay, so that's why the spiral heat exchangers are familiar in this particular operation of continuous sterilization. Okay, a plant of interconnected spiral heat exchangers and holding tube is made. Hot water is used to sterile this plant in a closed circuit. Before unsterilized media comes in, the fermenter and holding tube are steam sterilized, and the heat is conserved in this procedure by cooling the sterilized heated media with the help of cool unsterile media. And there is sometimes we will be adding additives to the system, how to sterilize them. So during the course of the fermentation, sometimes additives are being introduced in order to increase the efficiency of the process. So for that also, continuous and batch sterilization methods are used for the sterilization of additives, but the process will depend upon the what is the nature, biochemical nature, and the volume of additive to be introduced. So usually continuous sterilization is preferred for large scale additive addition. Large volume of additive is being used. Okay, if it is if you want to use this batch sterilization, it can be used as it uses the steam injection into the additive liquid directly. Okay, so that way, if it is for small scale, we can use the steam injection. For large scale, we use the continuous sterilization process using the spiral heat exchangers. Okay, so last 2 points. So then we have seen about growth media, we have seen about additives. Okay, so now coming to the fermenter vessel equipments. So how to sterile it? The fermenter vessel is to be sterile before the fermentation begins, as the media used is sterile in a separate cooker. We are using the small items separately in a putting all of them into a cooker, and then we are doing. Okay, but the fermenter vessel means it will have cooling coils, because we have seen it. If it is agitated vessel also, we are going to have cooling coils, or if it is inside also cooling coil may be there, right? So in that case, the coils or the jackets of the fermenter vessels are heated with the help of a steam that is introduced into it. It's like a sudden introduction. Okay, so we should have a facility to introduce steam from various parts so that it is splashing on it. Okay, so steam is introduced on all the parts of this fermentation vessel, through which the steam goes out of the vessel slowly. So once it is introduced, then it will be leaving the system. Okay. Usually the steam is introduced at 15 psi, pounds per square inch pressure, for around 20 to 25 minutes, so which is sufficient for sterilizing the fermenter vessel. So steam sterilization is preferred for sterilizing the fermenter. Usually a pressure of 15 psi for 20 to 25 minutes is done. Okay, so this sterile air is removed out of the vessel by sparring, and a positive pressure is maintained that prevents formation of the vacuum in the vessel. And we are going to make use of air filters, so they also needs to be sterilized. So in that case, how to sterilize the filters? So filter sterilization, how we use the filters to sterile. Suspended fluids that are present in the media, which can be sterile with the help of a filter sterilization by the following methods. So one is diffusion method, that is brown ion motion, which is introduced for the separation of very small particles present in the fluid by collision with each other. Some particles deviate from the normal flow of fluid, and they also get caught in the fibers. So in a filter, there will be pores are there, so there will be diffusion of these contaminants through it, and they get stuck in there, and the remaining is leaving the system. Okay, that is one way. Another one is inertial impaction. So in this the suspended particle present in the fluid will have some kind of momentum, based on which they are separated with the help of this method. A route of less resistance is created, in which the fluid flows through the filter, and the suspended particles due to the momentum will flow in a straight line, and they get trapped in the filter. So obviously we have studied filtration techniques, membrane technology separately. Okay, so that's how we do the sterilization using filters. Other than that, there are techniques like electrostatic attraction. The filtration membrane has a charge that will attract the oppositely charged suspended particles. They get deposited on the filter. That is also possible, right? Electrostatic attraction. And then interception. So where in case of interception, interwoven fibers make the fiber with openings of different sizes, and particles that are larger than the pore size are excluded, and sometimes smaller particles are also unable to cross the filter membrane, as the passage gets blocked by the other particles, and they are removed. Remember, whenever there is a filter, there will be filter cake formation on the surface, right? So in that case, the diffusion is going to be difficult, right? So that way, the filter cake removal has to be performed often, so that you have effective filtration taking place. Okay. And finally, coming to the sterilization of the air, anaerobic fermentation needs continuous addition of sterile air that can either be sterilized by heat or filtration. So obviously, we will fix filter with fixed pores. They will be used for sterilization of the air. Hygroscopic materials like PTFE are used in this type of filters for this particular application. So there are other type of filters like depth filters, membrane cartridge filters made up of nylon, cellulose, polysulfone are also being used. Okay, so they are easy to operate. So that way they are also preferred. Okay, so if it is depth filter, mean they will mainly work upon the principle of inertia, gravitation, diffusion, electrostatic attraction, etc. So these depth filters will be making use of them. So in this lecture, we have discussed about the rate of microbial death, and we have seen how these sterilants are going to work, and a brief introduction to different type of sterilization techniques, how sterilization of a cultural media, additives, fermenter vessels, or how the filters are being, filter fermentation, sterilization is being performed, how the sterilization of air have been discussed in this lecture. Okay, thank you so much for patiently listening to this lecture. Meet you in the next lecture. Bye bye. So are there any questions? I will share this PPT with students also. Okay. You can refer to textbook for more contacts. We are able to finish correctly.